Hello, this is Ashkeep and this is assignment 19. This assignment we'll be looking at strengths and weaknesses for the two outdoor adventure activities that we did, which is bouldering and sailing, and also the development plan. With the first one we'll be looking at is the strengths and weaknesses for bouldering. The first skill was using your toes to get onto rocks. This means not having your whole foot while your shoes on the rocks, but only having the side part of your big toe. This enables you to be able to climb smaller rocks and also allow you to swap feet when you need to, as your feet are only taking up a small proportion of the rock. I felt I was very good at this and scored myself a 10, as you could see on the chart that I've got above. I scored myself a 10 as all the time I was climbing I looked to fit on only my big toe and the rocks, which allowed me to climb harder, more challenging climbs that have only small rocks, and doing so ensured I could make smooth maneuvers either upwards or across my body to switch sides, and also switch momentum on one side of my body to another depending on which side I needed to move onto. The next skill was hand-eye coordination. Hand-eye coordination relates to the way an individual's hands and eyes work together to be able to do things that require speed, accuracy and precision. I felt my hand-eye coordination was very good and scored myself a 9 out of 10. I was very good at looking at my feet and making sure they were in the right position for me to move on to the next rock while still maintaining my grip onto rocks above my head, which meant when I was reaching for rocks above, at times I found even have to look, as I had a good sense of where I found I didn't even have to look, as I had a good sense of where my body was in relation to my environment, which is known as my kinesthesis. The next skill was upper body strength. Upper body strength relates to the ability to exert maximum force against an external object using your upper body muscles. I felt I had very good upper body strength during the course of climbing and scored myself a 10 out of 10 for that, as I was quite reliant on it due to my initial climbing techniques not being very good, as I only had done climbing a handful of times before. I used my upper body strength several times to pull up against difficult rocks and also to hang on to them when I sprung up onto high rocks by the slapping technique. The next technique was flagging. Flagging technique in climbing relates to keeping one of your legs stretched out to the side of the wall while you climb to prevent yourself from swinging around, which lead to having most of my body weight being supported by only my arms and hands, which leads to quicker fatigue in your arms. I felt I didn't do this as often as I should have, scoring myself a 7 out of 10, and was more reliant on my upper body strength to get me out of precarious positions. For example, I found myself at times using more upper body strength than I should have due to a lot of swinging I was doing, which could have been avoided by flagging one of my legs out and regaining my momentum. The next skill was agility. Agility relates to the ability to move quickly and easily in relation to climbing. This can be, for example, leaping for a rock that's high up or switching your body weight from one side to another. That requires a good amount of agility. I felt I was pretty agile and scored myself a 8 out of 10 on climbing because I was able to complete rock colours that required a lot of leaping from one rock to another, which requires you to be fairly agile to do so. Furthermore, I was also able to switch my body weight from one side to another depending on which side I needed to be at to reach for my next rock. This requires a lot of agility to allow your whole body to move from one side to another while still in control of it. The next skill was balance. Balance relates to an even distribution of weight to enable an individual to remain steady and upright. But in relation to climbing, balance would be to maintain the weight of your body evenly spread out whilst climbing, so not having your arms bearing most of your body weight, which leads to fatigue and then potentially falling. I scored myself a 9 out of 10 for being balanced, and I found it relatively easy to remain balanced even in situations where it was hard to do due to the lack of support. when even climbing small rocks. This was due to acquiring techniques given by the instructor while climbing, such as having my big toe on rocks at all times. The next technique was slapping on steep walls. Slapping on steep walls relates to using momentum to thrust upwards to capture at the dead point. This is the split-second weightless momentum at the top of the dyno, and momentum to gauge onto the wall quickly to gain more friction on the wall to help keep a hold of the wall, rather than if you did it in slow motion. Due to having good upper body strength, I was able to slap on steep walls relatively well by thrusting my legs and hips upwards to grab onto the rock, and then using my upper body strength to pull myself upwards. So I scored a 10 out of 10 for this particular skill. Next we look at opportunities in bouldering. So opportunities to get involved with bouldering. There are many opportunities to get involved with bouldering depending on your ability. In many of the climbing exercises I felt I was comfortable and classed myself as an intermediate level. This means that in terms of opportunities, I would be looking to join a local club to enhance my skill and become better, rather than, for example, if I was a novice, I would be more likely to be looking for local training courses around that have skilled coaches to have planned sessions of individuals of similar ability, and they focus on basic skills for beginners. By having an intermediate skill set at bouldering, I can look to join a local bouldering facility such as Boulder Brian in Port Slade to help take my skills to the next level. Boulder Brian offers opportunity for young and adult individuals who are enthusiastic about bouldering. They do this through online registration that requires to figure out what's best for you individually depending on your skill level and also how regularly you would like to participate in bouldering. You can either book a bouldering instructor's session that will have a trained bouldering expert to help you improve your climbing skill set, or you can get involved through entering competitions such as Slabfest. This will allow you to learn techniques and skills by experienced and trained bouldering instructors, and then you can get to use these acquired skills in competitions for prizes and experience. These opportunities are also greatly supported as a student due to discounts you can get. At Boulder Brighton, they offer a 15% off general discount for full-time students. Furthermore, you would be entering competitions either locally, nationally or internationally. These competitions are run by the British Mountaineering Council, the BMC. Some of these events they run are the BMC Gower Climbing Festival, which is national, and also the British Lead and Speed Championships for all ages. For local competitions, Boulder Brighton offers a chance for schools to sign up for their inter-school competition. Teams of any number from 3 participants upwards, under 16 and 16 plus categories as well are included. Another opportunity is that the local bouldering centres are very close to me and easily accessible. There is one in Withdean, which is in Patcham near Hove where I live, and the Boulder Brighton Centre is in Port Slade, which is also nearby to where I live. And we look at some of the threats. There are many opportunities to get involved in bouldering, of course, as we just spoke about, despite your ability. However, there are also some threats to this. As a student who is in full-time education, you might have college work to complete outside of timetabled lessons and are expected to do a minimum 4 hours work outside of college for each course you do at college. Furthermore, when you do have spare time, this spare time might have other commitments that you do. For example, you might play football for a team outside of college, or you might choose to spend that spare time with friends, socializing, or hobbies, or spend it with your family. Another threat to get more involved in bouldering could be the potential cost to book sessions at a bouldering centre, travelling there as well, and also equipment required such as indoor climbing shoes, which is quite costly. Next we look at my strengths, weaknesses and opportunities for sailing. The first skill in sailing was getting into the boat. When entering the water and also releasing the boat into the water, you had to ensure that you hold the rope at the front of the boat. The person who was controlling the sail and the speed entered the boat first, putting their legs on either side of the centerboard, and then grab a hold of the ropes that control the speed that the boat goes at. Release these ropes to let the sail out and slow down, or pull the rope and bring in the sail to increase speed. Then the person controlling the rudder for steering would hop in and sit onto the edge of the side of the boat, grabbing the tiller and face away from the rudder and tiller in the direction that you're sailing in. The next skill was using the tiller. I was fairly capable at controlling the tiller, but it took me a couple of attempts and the instructor telling me to push the tiller away from me in order to turn left across the wind as we were going across the wind, and pull the tiller to turn right when going across the wind as well. The next skill was sailing towards the wind. We had to sail across the wind and then turn around at a white buoy and head for the red buoy on horizontal sides of each other. I was fairly comfortable at turning, but after turning I had no idea how to then sail towards the next buoy, which led to us capsizing a lot of times. The next skill was tacking into the wind. When tacking into the wind, it requires us to turn towards the wind. When doing so, the front of the boat passes through the boat and the sail switches sides, so the sailor, who always sits opposite the sail, has to switch sides to remain opposite to the sail. The first time round I was controlling the tiller, and so I was sat upright on the edge of the boat. I was very concentrated on the swing boom and trying not to get hit by it. So when it came to switching sides after turning, I was very slow at this, which led to one side having too much weight on it and therefore capsizing. The next skill was moving the boat to support tacking. I was a bit slow moving in the boat to switching sides and support tacking and balance the weight of the boat due to being nervous and making sure I wasn't hit by the swinging boom. Instead of concentrating on straightening the tiller after moving into the boat, I was more focused on not getting hit by the boom. This meant all the weight was on one side for a long period of time, which led to us capsizing. The next skill was stowing the boat. When stowing the boat, firstly we pulled the boat to the side using the ropes at the front. Then we had to unclip the sail from the boom and roll it up. We also had to pull up the tiller from the water and the centerboard, of course. The next skill was what to do when capsized. When capsized, I had to put a lot of weight on the centerboard to lift the boat that was lent into the water and flip the boat so it was vertical in the water. After doing this, I had to grab the rope at the front of the boat to guide it in the direction we wanted to go in before then getting inside it again. The next skill was teamwork. As a partnership, we didn't work very well together, largely due to our lack of skill, and so when one of us was doing something, we were unsure whether any of us were doing the right thing or not, which led to a lot of confusion and poor teamwork because we both began to grow in frustration and started shouting at each other. Then final skills, communication. Communication from me to my partner was very good, I thought, as I was very vocal and clear, letting him know what he needed to do. However, communicating as a partnership was very good due to my partner being very apprehensive, and I was getting very frustrated at this, which might have led to me shouting at him. So I meant communication as a partnership wasn't very good because he was very apprehensive when it came to sailing. And yeah, he kind of just let me do everything, and I was getting a bit frustrated at that. Next we look at opportunities for sailing. There are plenty of ways and opportunities to get involved in sailing locally and nationally, depending on ability and commitment levels. When we did sailing, that was my first ever time sailing, and I was at a very cognitive stage of learning, and my initial skill set were poor.